two men stand in the dirt, smiling proudly beside what looks like the remains of a dinosaur. At first glance, the photograph feels ordinary, almost like something you might find in an old family album from the early 20th century. The men wear simple working clothes, suspenders, rolled-up sleeves, and hats that suggest the practicality of laborers. Behind them, the rough countryside stretches out, uneven ground with little vegetation, the kind of place where fossil-bearing rock might be exposed. At first, nothing about the image seems unusual. People have been finding fossils for centuries, and many were discovered by ordinary workers rather than scientists. But this picture quickly becomes more than a casual snapshot. When experts zoom in on the details of the skeleton, their expressions change. The bones show textures and patterns that seem too precise to dismiss, yet the photo itself carries strange signs that raise doubt. Is this an authentic record of a historic discovery, or a carefully staged illusion meant to deceive? The mystery begins here, with two men and their skeleton. A photo that shocks experts at first glance. The photograph of the two men beside the skeleton feels harmless, even routine. But the moment scientists began to study it closely, the mood shifted from simple curiosity to deep unease. Experts who regularly deal with fossil records know what to expect. Broken bones, rough surfaces, and layers of rock that tell a clear story of time. Yet, in this image, the details forced them to stop and look again. Some saw textures on the bones that mimicked real fossil structure, the kind of porous channels where blood once flowed. The jawline even seemed to hold teeth rooted like genuine dinosaur remains, not the clean molds of replicas. For a moment, it looked like a discovery that could rewrite history. But other specialists noticed shadows that didn't match, outlines that looked tampered with, and patterns repeating unnaturally. What made the photo shocking was not only what appeared real, but also what seemed impossible. It became a single image capable of dividing experts, half whispering that it might be genuine, the other half convinced it was one of the most elaborate fakes ever made. The strange first look. When people first see the photograph, their reaction is usually simple curiosity. It looks like something that might have been taken 100 years ago, a faded snapshot of two workers, proud of what they uncovered. Their smiles seem honest, their clothes ordinary, and the countryside behind them feels like the kind of rough ground where bones might actually be found. Nothing at first suggests mystery, but as the eye lingers, the feeling begins to shift. The skeleton lying in the dirt is strangely complete, with its bones aligned in a way that looks more like a museum display than a natural discovery. Real fossils are rarely uncovered in such neat order. Time, decay, and shifting earth scatter remains long before scientists dig them up. The absence of tools, plaster jackets, or any signs of a careful excavation adds to the strangeness. It feels too perfect, too staged, as if the scene was arranged for the camera rather than recorded by chance. That first glance of curiosity turns into doubt. The photograph seems to invite you in, then quietly asks whether you are looking at history or at a performance designed to fool. Claims behind the image. The story tied to the photograph is simple, almost too simple. According to the claim, the two men stumbled upon a dinosaur skeleton while digging in a remote patch of ground. They paused only long enough to take a picture, wanting to capture the moment before handing the find over. No excavation records exist, no plaster casts, no written notes from the site, just the single image. The background shows rough countryside, uneven dirt with little vegetation, which does match areas where fossil-bearing rock could appear. Their clothes fit the time rolled-up sleeves, suspenders, the style of early 20th century working men. On the surface, it feels believable, the kind of chance discovery that could have happened outside official expeditions. But science has always demanded more than a story. Fossils of that size are fragile and must be supported, documented, and removed with care. The absence of tools, reports, or follow-up evidence makes the claim weak. It asks people to accept the photo as proof without the chain of evidence real discoveries always carry. That is why suspicion grows the longer experts consider the claims. Why experts grew pale? When seasoned experts first zoomed in on the photograph, their reaction was far from excitement. It was shock. These are people trained to study every line, crack, and detail of fossils, and what they saw left them unsettled. Some of the bone surfaces showed porous textures, the kind paleontologists recognize instantly as channels where blood once flowed. The teeth seemed to sit in sockets like those of real dinosaurs, not the smooth, uniform rows seen in casts or fakes. Even the surrounding dirt appeared natural, with small inclusions and layering that suggested genuine burial. For a moment, the photo seemed too real, as if history had been captured without warning. Yet this very realism is what made them uneasy. Could such accuracy exist in a random photo with no records, no excavation team, no follow-up? Experts grew pale, not because they believed at once, but because the image forced them to confront an unsettling possibility. Either this was a discovery of enormous importance that had somehow vanished from history, or it was a forgery so advanced it could deceive even trained eyes. Real or fake bones? The heart of the mystery rests on one question: are the bones in the photograph genuine or not? At first glance, the skeleton looks convincing. The texture of the surface appears rough and porous, like true fossilized bone. The jawline and teeth seem to match the patterns seen in actual dinosaur specimens, not the smooth repetition of plaster models. Even the soil around the remains appears layered, the kind of sediment one expects from natural burial. These details make some argue that the bones must be real, but others see something different. Certain edges look too sharp, too clean, as though they were cut out and placed into the scene. Repeated textures suggest copying, the kind of flaw that shows up in clever hoaxes. Shadows from the men and the skeleton don't perfectly match, hinting at possible compositing. The photo feels trapped between truth and deception, containing just enough realism to inspire belief, but enough inconsistencies to spark doubt. Real fossils are always backed by records and study, while this image offers only a frozen moment. So the debate continues: real bones or a fake built to trick? Signs of fossil detail. When experts examined the photograph, some details stood out as strangely convincing. Along the skeleton's jaw, the teeth looked embedded in sockets rather than glued or cast in place, something that matches the biology of real dinosaurs. The surface of the bones showed tiny channels and pores, the microscopic pathways where blood once flowed. These patterns are not easy to fake, especially in the early 20th century when special effects were limited. Even the dirt around the bones appeared layered with small inclusions, like bits of sediment that naturally build up during burial. To some scientists, these details suggested that the photo might capture a genuine fossil find, one that had been overlooked or lost in time. If true, it would be an extraordinary discovery, the kind of chance moment that changes history. Yet the realism itself is what makes the image suspicious. Because if such detail was authentic, why were no excavation notes, site maps, or museum records ever linked to it? The signs of fossil detail draw experts in, but they also deepen the puzzle, making the photograph harder to dismiss outright. Signs of clever hoax. For every detail that makes the skeleton look real, there are others that push experts toward doubt. When analysts zoomed in, they noticed faint halos along the edges of the bones, the kind of outline that often appears when two images are blended together. Certain textures on the skeleton repeat unnaturally, as if copied and pasted, something no genuine fossil would show. The lighting also raises suspicion. The men cast shadows in one direction, while parts of the skeleton seem lit from another angle, suggesting the photo may have been composited. Even the arrangement of the bones feels too perfect, almost staged, lacking the messy scatter usually left by nature. Forensic specialists point out that such signs often mark deliberate manipulation, whether done with analog cut and paste methods in the past or digital tools in modern times. The skeleton looks convincing enough to fool a casual eye, but under careful inspection, the flaws reveal themselves. These cracks in the image are why many believe it is not a lost discovery at all, but rather one of the most carefully engineered hoaxes ever designed. Civil War pterosaur hoax. This is not the first time a mysterious photo has stirred debate. One of the most famous examples is the so-called Civil War pterosaur pictures. These images showed groups of soldiers standing proudly, what looked like the carcass of a giant winged reptile. For decades, they circulated in books, magazines, and later online forums, sparking endless arguments about whether such creatures had really been found. To believers, the photos seemed like undeniable proof that history still held secrets. But investigations eventually revealed the truth. One of the best-known versions was nothing more than a staged prop created for a 1990s television series, Freaky Links, by Haxine Films. Other versions turned out to be digital edits where wings or corpses were inserted into old backdrops. Despite being exposed, the images still linger on the internet, often shared as evidence by those who want to believe. The Civil War pterosaur story shows how powerful a single photo can be. Even when proven false, it can live on, recycled again and again as if fact. Why people still believe even after photos are debunked, many people continue to believe in them. The reason is simple: images spark imagination. A picture of men standing with a dinosaur skeleton or soldiers beside a pterosaur touches something powerful in human curiosity. People want to believe that the world still holds shocking secrets waiting to be uncovered. These photos give a glimpse of that dream, even if they are proven false. On forums, in books, and across social media, such images are shared again and again, often without the explanations that expose them. The myth survives because the desire to believe is stronger than the comfort of facts. Skeptics may point out flaws in lighting or repeated textures, but believers focus on the thrill of what if. For many, the possibility itself is more exciting than the truth. That is why mysterious photographs, even when labeled hoaxes, continue to circulate. They blur the line between history and legend, reminding us that people often prefer a good story over hard evidence. How we will investigate to move past rumor and speculation. We need structure. A single photo can spark endless debate, but without a clear method, the arguments never end. That is why investigators use step-by-step criteria when facing controversial claims. In this case, there are 5 main areas to study. First is provenance, where the photo came from, who took it, and whether its history can be traced. Second is anatomy and taphonomy. Does the skeleton structure match known dinosaurs? And is it buried in a way that fossils are normally preserved? Third is photo forensics, careful analysis of lighting, textures, and possible manipulation. Fourth is ethics and ownership. If the skeleton were real, who would have rights to it, and how should it have been handled? Finally, there is the test of science itself. What would modern researchers do to confirm or reject the discovery? By applying these steps, we can separate excitement from evidence. Only through structured investigation can we decide whether this image shows history or trickery. 5 clear tests to use to uncover the truth behind the photo. Experts apply 5 clear tests. The first is provenance, the origin of the image. Who took it, where, and when? Without that, the story has no foundation. The second is anatomy and taphonomy, whether the skeleton's bones match real species, and whether its burial looks natural or staged. The third is photo forensics, a deep technical look at shadows, textures, and possible editing, revealing signs of tampering invisible to the eye. The fourth is ethics and ownership, because real fossils cannot simply vanish. If genuine, the discovery would have required permits, reports, and legal custody. The fifth is scientific testing. Modern tools like CT scans, histology, and protein analysis that can confirm whether bone is authentic fossil or artificial material. Each of these steps builds a framework. Alone, the photo is just an image, but when measured against these tests, its truth or falsehood can be exposed. By following this method, experts move from wonder and doubt to evidence and fact. Real science in 2025. The year 2025 has already shown how far real science has come in separating truth from illusion. In Texas, floods revealed fresh dinosaur tracks, preserved so clearly that scientists could see claw ridges and weight shifts in the mud. Teams used drones and 3D scanners to capture every detail, creating a permanent record before erosion could damage the site. In Canada, work on Scotty, one of the largest Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons ever found, revealed preserved blood vessels in its ribs, evidence that even soft tissues can survive for millions of years under rare conditions. At North Carolina State University, researchers confirmed multiple cases of preserved cartilage and collagen in fossils once thought too old for such survival. Each of these discoveries was backed by careful excavation, documentation, and peer review, proving that extraordinary finds can be tested and verified. Compared to a lone photograph with no records, these modern breakthroughs show the difference between mystery and science. In 2025, real paleontology is not about blurry images. It is about evidence that can be studied again and again. Tracks in Texas. Floods in August 2025. Heavy floods in Texas washed away layers of soil and revealed something astonishing: fresh dinosaur tracks stretching across the mud. More than 15 massive three-toed footprints appeared, each between 18 and 20 inches long. The impressions were so sharp that paleontologists could see claw ridges and subtle pressure marks from shifting weight. Volunteers first spotted the site in Travis County and quickly called experts who rushed to investigate. Within days, drones were flown overhead to capture wide images, while 3D scanners mapped every depression in precise detail. These methods ensured the tracks were preserved digitally before weather could erase them. Analysis suggested the trackmaker was a large theropod, possibly similar to Acrocanthosaurus, a predator that roamed the region over 100 million years ago. What made this discovery remarkable was not only the sudden appearance of the trackway, but also the way it was documented, scientifically, publicly, and with layers of proof. Compared to the mysterious skeleton photo, the Texas tracks show exactly how real finds enter history. Blood vessels in Rex rib. In July 2025, researchers studying Scotty, one of the largest Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons ever discovered, revealed something almost unbelievable. Inside one of Scotty's ribs, scientists found preserved blood vessels that had survived for 68 million years. These weren't living tissues, but mineralized traces that kept the structure and shape of the original vessels. By cutting thin slices of bone and studying them under microscopes, experts could see microscopic channels that once carried blood. Using paleoproteomics, they even detected remnants of ancient proteins, giving insight into how these giants lived and healed. Evidence showed that Scotty's rib had undergone repair from a serious injury, proving the dinosaur survived long enough for its body to heal itself. This discovery matters because it shows that soft tissues can endure under rare conditions, providing a way to test extraordinary fossil claims. If someone presented a skeleton with tissue-like details, modern labs now have the tools to verify it. Scotty's rib is proof that science can separate fantasy from fact with hard evidence. More soft tissue found. In March 2025, scientists at North Carolina State University confirmed that soft tissue preservation is not as rare as once believed. By re-examining dozens of dinosaur fossils, they found multiple cases where vessels, cartilage, and even collagen fibers had survived for tens of millions of years. These remains were not fresh or flexible, but mineralized traces holding the original biological structure. Under microscopes, they revealed growth patterns, healing scars, and protein fragments that gave new insights into dinosaur life. The discovery proved that under the right conditions, rapid burial, low oxygen, and chemical stabilization, organic tissues can last far longer than expected. This breakthrough changed how experts view extraordinary fossil claims. Instead of dismissing them as impossible, scientists now have tests to check them. Histology, chemical assays, and scanning technologies can reveal whether tissues are authentic fossils or modern fakes. For the mysterious skeleton photo, this matters greatly. If it truly showed preserved tissues, today's methods could prove or disprove it with certainty, leaving little room for doubt or deception. Like features in May 2025, researchers from the University of Alberta revealed something no one had noticed before: dinosaurs with cheek-like structures, which they named exoperia. These features were reconstructed from detailed studies of skulls and muscle attachment points, showing how certain species may have looked and fed in ways we never imagined. The discovery was not based on a dramatic photograph or a chance image, but on years of careful examination of bones under controlled conditions. It reshaped how scientists think about dinosaur faces, proving that even small anatomical details can transform our understanding. Importantly, findings like these highlight the difference between real science and mystery photos. Subtle structures such as exoperia could never be spotted in a blurry picture. They require access to real fossils, microscopes, and comparative anatomy. This breakthrough reminds us that true progress comes from patient study and evidence that can be tested, not from single unexplained images. Against the skeleton photo's uncertainty, discoveries like these show what authentic research looks like. New dinosaur species named in June 2025. The Natural History Museum in London announced the discovery of a brand new dinosaur species, Enigmacursor mollyborthwicca. This small, two-legged herbivore lived in North America during the late Jurassic period and was found in the famous Morrison Formation, a site that has yielded many iconic fossils. What made the discovery so important was not just the new species itself, but the process behind it. The excavation was carefully documented from the start. Every layer of rock was mapped, every bone was recorded, and the findings were published in peer-reviewed journals. Finally, the skeleton was placed on display for the public to see. Anyone can read the research, visit the museum, and examine the evidence themselves. This level of transparency and verification is what separates real science from mystery. Unlike the photo of two men and their supposed skeleton, Enigmacursor is not a rumor or an isolated image. It is a find that went through the full chain of discovery, analysis, and publication, becoming part of history, not just speculation. What real finds share? When you look at the biggest fossil discoveries, a clear pattern emerges. Real finds are always supported by evidence that can be checked, tested, and repeated. They are tied to a specific location, embedded in a real layer of rock, and uncovered with care. Multiple people are usually present, from volunteers to professional paleontologists, and every step is documented in notes, photos, and scans. The discoveries are then published so other experts can review and challenge the results. This process ensures that fossils become part of the scientific record, not just stories or rumors. The Texas trackways, Scotty's rib, the preserved soft tissues, and the newly named Enigmacursor all share this transparency. They leave a trail of proof that anyone can follow, from excavation sites to museum displays. That is why they stand the test of time. In contrast, the mysterious skeleton photo has none of these things. No site, no records, no scientific papers. Without this foundation, it struggles to be seen as anything more than an image without context. Provenance and custody. Every authentic fossil discovery has a chain of custody, a clear record of who found it, where it was uncovered, and how it was handled. Excavation notes, site maps, permits, and ownership papers all form part of this trail. But in the case of the mysterious photo, none of that exists. We do not know who took the picture, what location it shows, or even what became of the supposed skeleton. Without provenance, the photo floats without anchor, making it impossible to verify. For real finds, even clothing, tools, and field equipment help historians date and place the moment. Suspenders, trousers, hats, or shovels can be matched to specific decades, and geologists can analyze the soil and rock layers to confirm if they match fossil-bearing formations. Here, the absence of context is striking. The ground in the photo looks like plain dirt rather than layered stone, and no associated artifacts are visible. In science, a fossil without provenance is almost meaningless. That is why experts treat the skeleton image not as proof of discovery, but as a chain of claims without a chain of evidence. Forensic photo checks. When a mysterious image surfaces, experts turn to forensic photo analysis to separate truth from trickery. In the case of the two men and the skeleton, this means studying not only what the photo shows, but how it was made. If it is truly an old film image, analysts look at grain patterns, lens distortions, and chemical marks left during development. Genuine photos from the early 20th century have consistent textures, natural halos around bright spots, and lens flaws spread evenly across the frame. A fake often fails these tests, showing mismatched grain, sharp cutouts, or edges without the right blur. If the photo is digital, investigators shift to metadata and pixel-level checks. They search for missing EXF data, cloned patterns, and shadows that don't align. Depth of field and lighting inconsistencies often reveal compositing. Today, the biggest challenge is AI, which can mimic old photography with alarming realism. But even AI leaves clues: repeated textures, unnatural edges, and micro shadows that don't match. Forensics stack these tests together, peeling away layers until the image's true nature is revealed. Anatomy and burial clues. When paleontologists study a skeleton, they begin with anatomy. Do the bones match the shapes of real species, or are features mixed together from different animals? Carnivorous dinosaurs have sharp, recurved teeth, while herbivores show flat, grinding surfaces. Mixing them is a sign of fabrication. Skull openings, limb proportions, and vertebrae spacing must align with known patterns. Beyond anatomy, experts also